Hey, you cool cats and kittens. It's Carol Baskin. No, just kidding, it's me, Will. But I'd like to welcome you to episode one of my new podcast. Something that I've been actually working on for the past 2 months. Actually, this idea came from me wanting to interview seniors about their high school experiences, but because I didn't really feel motivated to do it, because every time, for example, people would come up to me and say something really philosophical, and I would be like, you know what, that would have been good for the podcast, but now it'd be really awkward if I had him repeat it into a microphone. So now there's no time like the present, and I'm really excited for everyone to be here and join me for at least, I think, an hour. I don't know, but we'll see what happens. I'm really excited. I'm okay. I just want everyone to know I'm doing fine, actually. I'm thriving, actually. And that's because I keep busy. Keeping busy is something I have always prided myself in doing, whether it's coming up with exciting things to do for myself or planning events just to keep myself entertained. I think one of the reasons why I feel like I've been so successful during this quarantine is because I create all of these things to do. I like to be spontaneous. Even before what I will call the pre-Tom Hanks era, because Tom Hanks, of course, is when everyone took this coronavirus seriously. Before and during the pre-Tom Hanks era, I would, come up with fun events for myself to do. So one day I would go into London and I would be like, okay, time to go to a Mars museum. Then we're off to a wax museum. And then we're off to Tina Turner the musical and bubble tea. And it's basically just how I am feeling at that time. Creating these things, creating this adventure that I like to think brings a lot of new opportunity to the table. That is just one of the things that we're going to be covering today, just in terms of how I've been managing my time. But I also want to talk about some questions that were submitted by you guys, the audience, and a way to connect. And also, we not only have one, not two, but seven guests that I have interviewed over the course of this week, and I am really excited to share. It is really great. Everyone was such a good sport, and to all of those who I interviewed this week. There will be more next week. I think I have a whole another host of people, but to those people that I interviewed this week, thank you very much for your time and participation. So, without further ado, let's talk about what I have been doing during my time here. In case anyone is interested. Firstly, I've been reading a lot. Reading is something that I never really got into when I was a kid. I would definitely lean towards visual, like pictures rather than actual like words. A big example is when I would read Goosebumps as a kid. I would always like look at the covers and I'd be like, that one looks the coolest to me, and therefore I will read it. So I was very much a visual person, and probably still a visual person today, because I still find it as an 18-year-old very hard to get through a book if I'm not invested. But I have been trying to expand, not my mind, but my choices in literature, apart from R.L. Stein, in which I've been reading a lot of H.P. Lovecraft. He's actually an author that I've found a new love for, actually, because I love his stories. If you don't know who H.P. Lovecraft is, he's an author from the I want to say 20s. He wrote for magazine columns, and he wasn't beloved until after his death, which is interesting because he has very much a Leonardo da Vinci lifestyle, if that makes sense, where he wasn't recognized until much later. And he has a range of supernatural to a lot of really interesting sea creature stories. I think a lot of his work has inspired just supernatural films we see today. For example, the Lovecraftian Color Out of Space, or Mandy, or all of these different very much colorful detailed. Actually, also, this is true. A lot of the book deals with like octopi and Chachulu, which is I can't pronounce, but that is a mystical or his most iconic sea creature, which is, I guess, some sort of octopus tentacle monster, which actually was also a big inspiration for Japanese kaiju films much later in life, interestingly. Uh, Another thing that I've been doing is writing. Writing is something that I love to do in my free time. I used to write a lot more than I had recently. I would write not for anyone but myself, really, just ideas that I would have, maybe from dreams, or just fiddling around with ideas for maybe scripts that I would try to write. But I never really got on that train to an extent where I would enjoy myself while doing it. Never really became a hobby. But now, while I'm talking to friends over Zoom or through social distancing, it's given me a chance to bounce off a lot of really awesome ideas with my friends and create these cool stories, which uh, are now uh, ingrained into my mind, and I just want to get it out in words. And so that's been a really fun thing to do, and have others read it, who come up with the ideas with you. Another thing that I've been doing is filmmaking. So I love to create media content. My YouTube channel, I vlog and I make editorial rooster horror reviews, which I really enjoy doing as well. I also am creating a short film, partly based off of my IB film portfolio, but I'm also basically taking that leap from school to own personal work that I'm doing right now with my brother, and that's really exciting. I've actually shown the footage to a couple people, and I'm really happy with the response that it's gotten so far, just in terms of how it's being crafted, because we're still in the filming stages. So as it's coming together, it's really interesting to see other people's perspectives. An important thing that I think is one of the most important things I've been doing is keeping a schedule. So I always aspired myself to wake up at 7, and even though I don't do this every night, probably because I stay up till 1 a.m. sometimes, or maybe it's because I want to have like I want to stay up longer, or I just don't get enough sleep the night before. I always try to wake up at 7 anyways, and even if I don't wake up at that time specifically, I know that it's still a goal that I have, and I've actually gotten very good at this goal, because I've been waking up actually now at 7 o'clock for the past, I want to say, 5 days in a row now. So I'm really excited that I can actually get on to the schedule and set things up for myself and actually go through with them, which is something that I wouldn't be able to do otherwise. Time management in terms of like eating and just doing like having fun. A lot of the day can go by really fast for me because I'm just doing so much, and in really actuality I'm doing so little because I'm going from thing to thing to thing without really not connecting to it, but embracing it, I guess, in a way. For example, if I read for like 40 minutes and then I do something for 2 hours, play video games for 2 hours, it becomes like, it doesn't become very balanced. So I've tried to become balanced, especially when it comes to food. So before, pre Tom Hanks, I would have this very regimented food schedule. So even if I wasn't hungry at 11:30, I would still always have lunch at that time. And right now, it's kind of eating when you are hungry, or for sometimes just eating because you're bored, which I have desperately tried to stay away from. But you also have to understand that sometimes when I'm anxious or just feeling overwhelmed, I can be like, all right, time for my midnight pizza. And and that is just a downward spiral of regret that I don't even want to get into. But yeah, what else have I been doing? I've been exercising actually. I mean, not that I didn't work out before. I always worked out on weekends, but it's been now I'm like, okay, time to do the same exercise every single day. And that usually for me is the bench press. Not to say I'm good at it, but I've actually have been making effort to try to improve one specific exercise in my life that I can just continuously improve upon. And then maybe do a smattering of others. I hate running. I'm never going to do it, so don't even ask. But I do like having that one thing that I can continuously improve. Another thing that I've been doing is watching a lot of entertainment just online when I'm not making my own, which is indie horror. I'm a huge horror guy. I love the genre. I want to say I would say I'm an expert, but I don't want to brag. So I will say I'm very familiar with the horror genre and its history, I guess, in a way. And it's given me a chance to watch a lot of this stuff. Like I just picked up Shudder, which is the streaming service, basically the Netflix for horror. And I've discovered a lot of really interesting indie stuff made for, a dollar budget and still has more charisma and value than most $150 million projects. But I'm not going to get into box office. That comes later in the questions. But which I actually want to move on to right now. So let's get that started. So these are questions that some put their names on, but to just keep it fun, I'm going to make it all anonymous. So this anonymous asks, first question, what is your stance on studios postponing movies versus putting them on VOD for premium rental prices? So that's actually a great question because I actually didn't really think about it, but then I realized I had so much to say on this topic. So there's a little bit of history in case, you're watching from a few weeks after, don't have any idea about the current theatrical market right now. At least 10 to 15 big budget movies have been delayed to either 2020, late 2020, or to 2021. So the earliest delayed film has been Disney's Mulan, which was pushed from March 27th to July 31st, and there's still no indication of whether theaters will still open. So that's really just hope for the best, expect the worst release date. So as time has gone on, then in these last few months, bankruptcy, including AMC, which is the biggest theater chain in America, is starting to loom exceedingly close. In response, studios such as Universal have jumped on the streaming platform. So they've released a host of films that were cut short theatrically, such as The Invisible Man, The Hunt, Emma. I actually wanted to see those films, or The Invisible Man at least, which I didn't have time to. So it was really, really great for me to use that Amazon credit I've been saving onto for 3 years and watch that. But one thing that I want to talk about is the first ever theatrically postponed and digitally released film, which, in case you don't know, is the new Trolls film. Now, what makes this gosh darn film so important? That being, of all films, Trolls World Tour. Well, I'll tell you, it was going to be released into theaters, but it was cut short, and Universal just decided to release it digitally, and reported their biggest digital buyout 10 times over in history. What does that mean for theaters in general? Well, not good. It means that if this actually works, where you can put a movie that was meant for theaters onto streaming and still make the same amount of money expected, then you might be seeing a lot of indie films pushed out of the entertainment industry and released straight onto streaming, which for some people might be great, but for those who really value the theatrical experience, such as I do, as this social bond between friends or family that you can go to and enjoy together, instead of watching on your phone and tablet at different times, I think is invaluable. And so now it's this question of studios where they're saying, are we going to postpone our movies or maybe put them on VOD now for premium rental prices? Is this the way that the future is, just streaming? And of course, streaming is the future. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But at the same time, there's nothing like watching a movie on the big screen together, and that's unfortunate. Even home theater systems still don't have that same oomph, I guess. The one that I go to is in Leicester Square, this big Dolby auditorium built in 1920. It has a lot of history behind it, and I love supporting it. It's this. There nothing beats it. I mean, even they give out free posters. It's so much fun. It's really a personal experience that they make for you now. Especially in art house indie theaters that struggle now to survive, which is so unfortunate. So I guess to answer the question, what is my stance on studios postponing films? I think those films that have been postponed should stay postponed. You should not release them on streaming, because if you do that, then there's a very good chance that you could create a new fluctuation of entertainment that just isn't fun anymore to do. And I hate that so much. So when I look on Twitter and be like, okay, who would pay an upwards of $50 just to see the new Marvel movie on their computer? I'm like, why would you even do that? I hate that. So that's to answer that question. The next question is, what is your opinion on celebrities complaining how hard it is in quarantine while inside a multi-million-dollar estate equipped with amenities like a tennis court, movie theater? Okay, so uh, I'm not gonna go into the political activism of celebrities over the years, but it is a fact that they have been, and that it's been increasing in number, record time. It's to the extent where hosts now of award shows are coming are making sure that the celebrities come over their fire for hypocritical virtue signaling, or what they claim. That's just what they claim. For example, the Golden Globes. Ricky Gervais said that because the majority of actors work with Apple or Amazon, they should have no say in politics because obviously it's not ethical. Now, you're fine to make up your mind on whether what they are saying is of value to you or not, but there's no denying that celebrity worship, especially in social media, is downplaying itself, now more than ever during post Tom Hanks. So, I think what you're talking about in particular is most recently the latest stunt by Gal Gadot, a fine actress, and her friends, who showed an incredibly clear example of just how tone deaf Hollywood or celebrities can be sometimes, and that was when they released the infamous Imagine music video, or at least if you could call it a music video. To me, it was an amalgamation of off-key karaoke. But what I really hated about that video was that when you look into the eyes of the actors, especially gals, you can see that they actually believe that they're making a difference, that what they're doing is so important to society that without, they cannot bring the world together. And, this goes back to the 80s, where We'll Feed the World with Michael Jackson and Tina Turner and Billy Joel, which, of course, was a huge successful fundraiser. And I know attributing that can be well-intentioned, but of course, the path to hell is paved with good intentions, and of course, it did not go as well as they thought it would. As you can see, even too, because my friends and people on Twitter are donating and actually doing something of value to people. And I guess my main problem with this is that they are acting as if they are on the same level of donating, and not to say that they should donate, but of course they should, but I'm not saying that they it's obviously their choice. I'm not telling them what their choice in, managing and how they're managing their own financial donations, because I'm sure they donate a lot. But when they act as if it is on the same level as those acts, then I just can't agree, and it just shows how tone deaf and hypocritical celebrities can be sometimes. And I really hate that. So to answer that question, I do not like celebrities complaining how hard it is in quarantine. or doing these things, not only because they attract more attention than those who actually are deserving of attention, but just in general, just making themselves look very foolish. Especially because the song Imagine has no basis for what's going on right now. I have no idea why they chose that song. It's weird. Anyway, moving on. The next question is, what is by far your favorite drink? And I believe this is referring to alcohol. And yes, I am 18 officially, woohoo! And I can drink in the UK legally. So with that being said, with that basis out of the way, I like a few drinks. So my special favorite drink, like what I would get at a restaurant, is a Negroni. A Negroni is a wonderful cocktail that is made with orange, and it's not entirely fruity, if that's what you're going for, but it is made with let's see the recipe. The recipe is consists of dry gin, Campari, and vermouth, which you all shake into a cocktail and serve either with ice or chilled. And I think it's the perfect cocktail, honestly. It's so delicious. You can drink it any time of the year, and it's not easy to make unless you have the ingredients, and it's hard to do it like super perfect. But I would say there's no better Campari cocktail than that one, and so I would definitely recommend the Negroni. But when I'm being simple and just want to kind of relax with something very simple, in front of a show or just by myself, I usually go for the gin and tonic. It's just a simple, obviously, drink, but I do think that it gets the job done when you just want something light, and I really do enjoy that. Next question: how do you best occupy your time? What do you enjoy doing most? So I enjoy doing probably like just being a part of my family in terms of how they ask me to do stuff, and just putting little hiccups into my day. So for example, I'm just watching TV and being, just chilling. And my brother's just like, the dog peed everywhere. And I'm like, okay, well, you know what? Even though this is the most awfulest thing, it's not boring. So, and as I said, I like to keep busy. So it does bring, just these little hiccups into the day. But I do like when things go unexpected. So I do like doing those unexpected things in life, whether it be like you have to do the dishes or you have to take out the trash. Not those I hate. I mean, I don't like those in particular, but when something is just brought up on you like that, it is kind of fun to do. Like, oh, how should I do it? How should I take out the trash? Should I go through the front door or should I go through the garage? I do like those little moments, I guess. The final question we have before we get into the interviews are from Anonymous, once again. List some of your favorite horror films and why you love them. Okay, so I came up with a list of my top 10 uh, all-time horror movies. And I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of horror movies. And probably more than no person should ever see. Like last night, I was watching the Evil Dead remake, and and my family came down, and they were like, "What is this? Like a snuff film?" And I was like, "No. This is Fede Alvarez's 2013 masterwork." And they're like, "Well, somebody just got their hand blown off by a demon." And I'm just like, "Well, then that's just how it is." And like, "Oh my god, this is disgusting." And then I had to turn it off. But yes. Um, uh, but I do like watching horror movies, and I made a list not only of my favorites, but like these are films that if you're not familiar with the horror genre, because I feel like a lot of my friends are either totally against horror, never watched one, just hate them so much, very like or completely love them and watch them all the time. So these are my 10 top, like, you need to see before, and some of them might fit into some genre, like subgenre, like a comedy, like horror comedy or horror thriller. But honestly, they're all at their basis like true horror movies. So let's get into number 10. And number 10 is The Cabin in the Woods, directed by Drew Goddard, 2011. This is probably one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. It's with Chris Hemsworth and Christian Connolly, and is about five college friends who spend the weekend at a remote cabin in the woods where they get more than they bargained for. So obviously, playing on the conventions of just what I mentioned, Evil Dead, and it's definitely this absolutely incredible horror comedy that uh, takes the conventions of what a scary movie is and kind of turns it on its head. But I don't want to get into spoilers, so you're just gonna have to watch that. I'm gonna quickly go through these because as much as I want to gush about them, I know that some people are like, "Ah, God, get on with it." So, at number 9, the Exorcist. Obviously, you've probably heard of this one, 1973, directed by William Friedkin. It's absolutely a classic, and there's a reason for it. Every single shot of the direction is just absolutely incredible. It's scary for a movie that came out in the 70s. When I watch it, the visual effects still hold up today, and the themes show that you don't have to rely on jump scares to be an effective scary movie, which is probably what most possession movies now are nowadays. So I definitely would consider that number 9. And number 8, we have another classic, and that being Alfred Hitchcock's 1960 Psycho. Of course, you probably already know the twists and turns in this one, but if you go back and watch it, it's almost like you forget the twists because you just become so invested in the storyline. And obviously, I believe it's Hitchcock's best. And of course, the shower scene, if you haven't seen it, is worth watching for the film alone. So I would definitely want you guys to check this one out. At number 7, we have Poltergeist. Now, this was directed by Toby Hooper, who is a horror genius. He directed the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He directed Life Force. But interestingly, some people think that behind the scenes, Steven Spielberg directed this film. And this was in the height of his career between Indiana Jones and E.T. and whatnot. So this was like right in his game. And you could tell that this is definitely a Spielberg film, not Shakespeare, a Spielberg film, because it has that classic suburban family, the paranormal activity that is still scary, but just enough where it just goes into traumatizing territory if you're watching when you're 12. And it's just a really great story, and still one of my favorite ones that I watched as a kid that I still look on now and be like, yeah, this is one of the best. So I would definitely check this one out. At number 6 is 21st Century. So all of this, I think, from here on out is coming in at I think majority 21st Century is Get Out, directed by the immensely talented Jordan Peele. This is probably the one that most people have seen, just in terms of people around me that I've talked about with, and it is absolutely incredible as a thriller, incredible as a mystery. It's probably the least horror movie on the list, but its themes are done so well, especially the political commentary. It is so hard to do, and Jordan Peele just pulls it off perfectly in this film. I haven't seen something as like funny, as clever, or as just interesting visually as Get Out. So I would definitely, if you haven't already, check this one out. It really is a grassroots horror movie. So if you aren't familiar or you just don't like them, I would definitely recommend checking this one out first. 4. Now we're getting into the. Oh wait, no, 5. We're at 5. Now we're getting into like my all-time territory. Dan Trachtenberg was actually a YouTuber turned director, And with 2016's 10 Cloverfield Lane, he proved that you can create a Twilight Zone-esque story and still be completely modern, completely fresh, and like terrifying. Like, I don't know how you could make the dad from Roseanne scary, but they did. They made John Goodman actually Sully. They made Sully scary in this movie from Monsters Inc. So, I mean, if that isn't critical acclaim on its own, I don't know what is. It's absolutely incredible. Number 4 is another Jordan Peele. Actually, I think this one is better than Get Out. It's Us, his 2019 follow up, in which another Twilight Zone esque, very clever film. Which it's the amount of detail that is in this is absolutely incredible. There are little plot points, little details throughout that when you watch back, you're like, oh my god, that totally makes sense. And I've seen this movie 3 times, probably, and I'm still like seeing stuff that relates to other things in the film. I mean, that's as best as I can explain it. But they're details. It's the little details, and the political commentary is more subtle. But I think it's so much more relevant, even with the celebrity and the virtue signaling that comes from like this societal gap that we see now. It's done so perfectly. So I would recommend checking this one out. Now, this is actually my second favorite movie of all time. Right, right in front of The Shining, which is my second favorite horror movie of all time, not to be confused. So this is American Psycho, second favorite movie of all time, third favorite horror movie of all time, if that makes sense. And American Psycho, it's not for everybody. I'm just going to say it right now. Not for everyone. It's extremely gory. It's extremely gratuitous, and it's very the movie is very problematic, but it's intentionally problematic. It wasn't like ironic, like unironically in the 80s. Like the choices that they make towards certain, I don't want to say groups of people, but I think that the choices they make are super duper important in the creation of this character, which is this complete lunatic by Christian Bale, who is perfect as like this crazy New Yorker. But I definitely, not for everybody, but for those who appreciate horror, dark comedy, I would definitely check this one out. Now we're getting into like not the best, but like the greatest of all time. With these two films, The Shining, Stanley Kubrick, 1980. Uh, Amazing. It's perfect. There's nothing wrong with this film. In fact, there's probably nothing wrong with, I don't think, any of these films. But if there is like a flawless movie, it is The Shining. And number one, Alien. Alien is my favorite movie of all time, and the most influential one in my entire life. It's an incredibly simple but effective horror movie that sets up the sci-fi world so beautifully. I love sci-fi too. I love sci-fi as well. Always have, but when it's done so perfectly, so balanced with this horror element of the creature, the xenomorph, you can't get any better than that. So those are my top 10 horror movies of all time. Um, Definitely, if you've seen some, great. If you haven't seen them, or maybe you want to, get on it. But yeah, so that would wrap up my questions. I think we're just over 30 minutes now before we get into the interviews. So thank you so much for this, listening to part one of just me in general. I would really love feedback on my voice, but not my voice, I'm sorry. Just how I am as a podcaster, because I know this probably for some of you is a test of patience to just listen to my voice for such a long time. But thank you so much, and let's get into these awesome interviews. Okay, and we're live with Ryan Rothermel, one of my great friends who go to Tassus. How are we doing, Ryan?
I'm doing well. How are you, Will?
I'm very good. I'm very good. I just wanted to start off with just kind of a simple question. So, how have you been, like emotionally wise? Or like how have you been keeping busy, I guess?
Oh, that's a question.
Yes, it is.
So of course quarantine is being quite, annoying in general. But I'd say I'm coping, just as well as everyone else is. I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm having, the best time,
Yeah,
but I also wouldn't say that like I'm completely crumbling as like a person. I mean, I'm
sure.
still functioning in general, just not to, peak capacity.
Mm-hmm. And have you been watching like any fun shows or movies or anything like that you've been interested in or like would recommend to our audience, I guess?
Well, yeah, so my sister and I,
Mm-hmm.
we watched the entirety of Adventure Time in 3 days. That was fun.
Oh wow, that's great.
Yeah.
How
Let
was
me just
that?
say, for a cartoon on Cartoon Network, it is quite in depth and hard hitting. Wow.
Yeah, I mean the character arcs in that are actually quite surprisingly deep.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially for a cartoon made for kids. So,
Exactly. And I was so surprised because I remember seeing, bits and pieces of it as a kid, but never really watching it enough to have like consistent content.
yes.
And so I
Yes.
always just kind of watched it for those, 20-minute little subplots. But, now that I could see it in a very episodic fashion,
Mhm.
I actually found it really interesting. It was quite fun.
Awesome.
That and Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I watched a lot of that. Yeah, exactly.
So, I guess my next question is transitioning into like schedule wise. So, have you been like on a schedule or has it been kind of just what you're feeling? So,
Not at all.
yeah.
Honestly, even while we were having, those online classes, I was not doing anything.
Mhm.
um, I wake up at like noon to 3,
Okay.
depending.
Sure.
And then I just kind of get done what I need to get done for a few hours and then just go back to sleeping.
How have you been finding the Zoom learning? Has it been better for you maybe or has it been like worse?
So it's kind of funny because I didn't actually do any of the Zoom learning.
Sure, sure.
So that's kind of biting me in the ass nowadays.
Mhm.
My parents got quite pissed,
Of course.
and I've spent the last 2 days doing all the work I should have done.
Okay. So I guess in a way it has kept you busy a little bit,
Yeah,
more or less.
just all in very clumped up, massive 2 days of just intensive work.
Mhm. Okay. Well, I guess actually speaking, when you're not working, you obviously would have a lot of free time, and but now that everything has been shut down, I like to call it the post Tom Hanks era.
hmm
Um, is there anything that you are looking forward to doing or planning on doing that you just simply can't do anymore?
Um, go out and see movies and do things and go out into London. I actually like. I think the one thing I miss is just going out and hanging with people in person.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah,
know,
absolutely. Is there
I
like a
won't. I won't say like partying, but
mm-hmm.
party esque type things, as
Right,
in
just
like
getting together. So what would a normal day in London be for you? Like what are all the landmark spots like Ryan Rothwell needs to hit?
Honestly, so I'm very, like I do things for a purpose. So I don't really go into London unless I want to do something. So usually I'll go in for like shopping. I enjoy doing that. Or let's say I'm taking photos for like my Instagram or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll, talk to a friend. I'll be like, "Hey, I found this really cool abandoned mine shaft," or like,
Right.
no, but I found this really cool graffiti alley, and we should take some photos over there. And he'll be like, "Yeah, that's actually really fun." So we'll go into London. I'll meet up with him or her at like Starbucks or something.
Mm-hmm.
Probably, head out to the location,
Mm-hmm.
hang out there for an hour or two, then just kind of walk around and see like if I can find anything else cool. Like let's say I find an underpass under a bridge and there's like a really cool, portrait there or something. I mean, just exploring a little bit. I really like exploring and doing things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Urban exploration is quite interesting to me. So yeah.
So is that just something a passion of yours that you not, haven't been really able to fulfill?
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's a little hard to walk around like my house and find things that I haven't, explored before.
Mm-hmm. Are there any like newfound passions that you found, just coin collecting or something of the like, which you've just discovered?
I will say I've done a lot of like research into snowboarding, which is already like a massive passion of mine. But I've kind of continued with that. I mean, I've been posting pretty consistently, with like just some of my snowboarding flat tricks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I saw your skateboard videos. They're very like I remember when I had my skateboard and I just totally wiped out. And actually, it's a funny story. What happened was one time I was I got a skateboard from my uncle and my mother said, if you hurt yourself, it's gone. And the first thing I did with it was put it on top of my parents' car and ride it down the windshield. And that was the last time I ever got to use a skateboard.
Oh, I
Uh,
love that.
yeah,
That's
so
actually just great.
I don't know what I was thinking, but I don't regret it. That's for sure. What is something that you probably like? What is something that you miss just the most? Like it can just be an object, or maybe like something important to you, an aspect of your life. It's like, what do you like most miss that you're like looking forward the most to getting back to?
um, my front doorstep.
Yeah, yeah. Tell me about
No,
it.
it's I think in reality just like the ability to go out and have that freedom of choice. That's what I miss the most.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know me, I hate being restricted in any way, shape, or form.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, I think if anything, that's what I miss the most is just the ability to choose.
And I guess as just a final kind of wrap it all up, is there any advice or something that just you like to think about that just gets you through the day, or maybe for others?
Um, it's all gonna be over eventually, and then we'll be in university, so we'll be fine.
Yeah, that I'll keep repeating that to myself. Well, thank you so much for
Thank you, Will.
yeah, thank
Yeah,
you
it's
so
been
much for your
great.
time. So, hi Cal, how you doing?
Pretty good. It is almost 3 here in the Ook. Where are
Well,
you?
where are you right
What
now?
time? I'm in my bed. Well, I'm not really in my bedroom. My bedroom's really small, so I have another room with like my stuff in it. So I'm in that room.
Okay. So, UK based, I guess. So we're on the same time schedule.
Wait, where are you?
I'm in the UK as well.
I thought you were in America.
No, they didn't want me.
I
Unfortunately.
didn't get accepted.
No, yeah, but no, I'm here still. I'm going over to Michigan this summer, so I'll be waiting for that. But yes, so enough about me. I just want to quickly ask you, how are you emotionally?
Um, fine. Weirdly, I'm actually super liking quarantine because I've always been very good at entertaining myself. That's never really been an issue for me, and it gives was I'm on quarantine and I have I'm on break, so I'm like stuck in the house for 2 weeks. So I've been doing lots of drawing and reading and going on like I found that like behind where my house is like a huge like labyrinth of public walk spaces and stuff. So I'm actually doing fantastic. I despite the fact that it's a global pandemic and like people are dying and all that, I'm actually really enjoying quarantine.
Okay, well that's good. I'm glad that you're okay right now. But I have you been keeping busy? So like, I mean, I know you're keeping busy, but have you been keeping more busy than usual, or have you found yourself just doing the same amount of work like before pre Tom Hanks, I guess?
Pre Tom Hanks.
Yeah, before the world kind of came together in unity. We call it I call it pre Tom Hanks.
Sure. No, I have. So, I mean, kind of. Because during my like school life, when I was actually going to school physically, I would basically I'd get up at like 7. I would have school from 8 till 3 on some nights, but like 5 on most nights because of my activities. And then I would get home and do homework till about 10:30. And so I had like very little time to myself. I took about a collective hour break. Or a lot of the times, actually, I actually could have gotten it done earlier, but I'm just so tired that I need to like take a hot minute to recharge my brain. But so now, I found that I'm doing the same amount of stuff, but I'm only productive if I make myself be productive. So I every day at the end of the day I write myself as like a to-do list for the next day. And it's not like, oh, here's what I want to get accomplished. It's like mine for today, I had a Spanish tutoring thing, so it was like wake up at 10, Spanish lesson until 12, 12 to 1:20 exercise, 1:30 to 2 check. I have like a thing I have to check. 2:10 to 2:50 work on my extended essay. I'm very regimented because if I don't do that, I end up playing video games all day and not getting anything done. So that's the only reason I've like worked on my piano and I've written a little bit of a song and I've been drawing and reading and stuff. But if I do what most people do on a break and is just do things when they want to, nothing, I don't get anything done. So
Okay.
I've been keeping very busy.
That's great. And speaking of video games, is there any like movies or books or TV shows that you've played or seen over post Tom Hanks that you've found enjoyable maybe that you want to recommend to our audience?
Well, first recommendation. I mean, it's not like a niche thing at all. But first recommendation is the book Fight Club. I read that and
Oh,
it
the
blew my
book.
mind.
Interesting
It,
choice.
well, it's because a good friend of mine gave it to me, and I'm one of those people. Like people, I will buy things that are non-perishable, like books or like I did like a hard copy of a movie or whatever, and I won't read them for like 4 years. Like I bought Dune in 2015 and finished it in the summer of 2019. And my mom was like, "You've got that book sitting there. You're never going to read it." I'm like, "Yeah, I'll read it eventually." So I got this book at like 2 years ago, and it's just been sitting on my shelf. And another really good friend of mine was like, "Hey, this is a great book. You should read it." So I read it. It was a bit hard to get through because there was one part that was really gory, and I'm not fantastic. Not gory per se, but a bit gross.
It's
I'm not
very
fantastic with
detailed,
that.
I guess you would say.
Yeah, yeah. And then after that, it was great, and it was kind of mind blowing. And I haven't seen the movie, so I really recommend that. And
Oh,
another one is a
yeah.
podcast. I've been listening to tons of podcasts because I'm lucky. I live near, like I was mentioning, I have those backwoods paths near my house. So I've been going on long walks a lot, and I've found an amazing podcast called 99% Invisible, and they talk about weird niche histories that you don't ever think of. Like there's like this 43 million square foot market in China. It's like where all of the dollar store items come from, and they have a piece on like how that's made and how it's like the entire region is like there are entire villages that just make like plastic Santas, and that's like all they do apart from farming. They have one about how shop windows became a thing. They have one about like the a thing called Vanta Black, which is like the darkest black ever created, and it looks fake. And all these crazy niche stories, and it's really nice to be walking around outside with earpods in and listening to that kind of stuff. So those are really the two things that I recommend that are
Mm-hmm.
not free, but Fight Club's obviously you have to buy the book, but it's like ten
Right.
pounds.
As
But 99%
someone who
Invisible is free.
loves the film, personally, I think that the book is definitely something that I should definitely take a look at sometime soon. So I will do that. Another question I actually had for you is: are there, I know city life is pretty dead right now, but were there some things that you wanted to cross off your bucket list that are just not possible anymore that you were planning to do, maybe?
Let me think. Well, yeah. So during this 2 weeks, I was going to go visit. I usually take a yearly trip to America at this time. I go and visit. My sister lives in Washington D.C., so we visit there. I usually go and see some things in the capital, which is always nice. My grandparents live in Arkansas, so it's really nice to go and visit them. And then my friends. I used to live in Chicago until I was 14, and all my friends are there, and I have not been because this year has been really busy for me, junior year, obviously, and I've been not keeping up with them as much as I should have. So I was going to go visit them and everything. And my brother also lives in Washington, in Chicago, so that was going to be nice. In terms of stuff locally, it would have been nice because the weather is just beautiful. So it would have been nice to like go to a movie with my friends, maybe go to Thorpe Park, which is the theme park place
Yes, the
near
theme park
us.
in Thorpe.
Yeah,
It's a very Cedar Point esque.
it's great. I love it actually.
Yeah,
But
what's your
I
favorite
was gonna
ride?
just things like that, just go out and have fun. I mean, even like I was planning on getting all my friends together, and because I'm really into card games, but I'm not very good at them, and I bought a really nice deck of cards, so I was gonna go and have all my friends over and play cards. And then my mom pointed out, like, you're gonna have a bunch of people during a global pandemic all in one place playing with the same deck of cards and touching them and exchanging them. That is a horrible idea. And I'm like, yeah, that is a pretty bad idea.
Yeah, that
So
is
that kind of went out
definitely.
the window.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just nothing major other than the flights to America. It was just like I haven't seen. I've seen like Skype calls of my friends and stuff, and I've talked to them, but I haven't seen one of my friends face to face in like almost a month now, and it is a weird
Yeah,
feeling.
yeah. I mean, it is a weird feeling, especially, as from the senior perspective. I think that it's been definitely a visceral thing because these are people that you've spent your entire lives with, and for a large portion at least, and now they're just kind of gone. As it's almost like Thanos got them. So it's really one of those awful things. But I think also for us personally, it was bound to happen. We were going to part our separate ways, but I think luckily for you guys, I think looking at it in a positive way, when this all blows over, I'm sure it will by September, at least.
Yeah,
I think that you'll have another year to recoup and uh, do a lot of the things that maybe you missed out on.
I yeah, I do feel bad for you guys, you seniors, because it's. I mean, like senior year is like, yeah, you have to say goodbye. So that's just a thing that has to happen. And I had a similar, maybe probably less. Well, I don't know about less, but I had a similar experience when I was leaving from my school in Chicago, and like no goodbye is perfect because it always is a goodbye, and those aren't like if you're saying goodbye to the people that you love, like that's always difficult. But some goodbyes are better than others. And so, if I was a senior, like I had friends leaving on totally different days at weird times in the day and they didn't know where they were going. They didn't know when we'd see each other again. It was a very improper goodbye. And if the next step was to legitimately never see them again, or not again, but like the next step was an accepted goodbye so we could all go to university, that would be deeply upsetting. I think the reason that I'm not too concerned about that is none of my close circle, I think, is gonna leave school before next year, so I'll see them again. But at the same time, it's like for those where that's not the case, like man, that sucks.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess closing it off, is there any advice or like that or like one thing that like keeps you going like through this time that we're living in right now?
Um, for me, so there's different types of people. I'm not very good at relaxing. I enjoy when I'm constantly doing things. So this is kind of advice to those kinds of people, not everyone.
Yeah, definitely
Because
myself included then.
yeah. So for people who need to do things, um, if you really like that, make a schedule for yourself. But it's important to have the things that you want to get done clearly defined and in mind. Like if your goal is to draw more, um, or your goal is to write a short story, or your goal is to exercise more, you can't just say, okay, on in this like if you're totally on break, then like, or even if you are doing school or work or whatever, and you have more time, you can't just sit down and be like, okay, at some point I'm gonna draw something. Like, say specifically when you're gonna do it. You know, maybe have in mind beforehand what you want to do. Keep yourself busy because if you don't, you're just gonna end up watching Netflix or reading the same book over and over again or playing video games or whatever. Um, and also, it is incredibly important that you don't just fold into yourself. Like I've been doing this too. I've been focusing so much on things that I want to do. Like I haven't spoken to any of my friends. Like there's a difference between just texting them, obviously, but I haven't like spoken with my voice to any of my friends in this country for a too long, for like I think like a week and a half. And it's getting to the point where like, oh, I should maybe pick my head up from all this self improving or my own habits that I'm doing and talk to a friend every now and again. Those are the two things: is don't lose touch and keep yourself busy. All right, I guess to sum it up are the things that I recommend everyone do.
Okay. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Hey, Alex, we're live. How you feeling?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I wanted to talk to you actually today because I wanted to see how you were doing and checking in and see what you're probably up to during these trying times.
Yeah. I mean, at first I was kind of lazy. I mean, I was finishing schoolwork and stuff, but now I'm starting to be productive. Getting into the quarantine routine. I'm starting a bunch of new hobbies, and I'm realizing how long these are. So I'm starting to fit more time, find more space to do my hobbies.
Okay. And and are these hobbies something that you've been wanting to do for a long time before all this went down, or are these some things that maybe you felt like you've been doing a long time before this?
No, it's kind of things that I never even thought about doing, and then decided that they're interesting because I'm on the internet and I find out about cool things to do.
What's it like in Australia right now?
It's nice. It's supposed to get colder, but it's still pretty hot during the day. Um, it's always sunny.
Okay, so Alex, we're both graduated officially IB film students. What was it like for you to kind of take on this challenge of doing work while teachers have been away? How have you been finding it? Have you been finding it easier or harder?
Well, for some IB subjects like film, we were kind of used to independent work. We had some guidance from teachers, but it was online anyway, or it would subjects it was harder to keep up with the syllabus. For example, the sciences, because I rely a lot on one-on-one interaction with my teachers. But it took some time to get used to.
Definitely. And for our IB film, what we did was we had to make a portfolio reel, which basically is 3 video clips showing our talents for 3 different subjects. So that could be screenwriting or editing or whatnot. Can you tell me a little bit about the script that you wrote for the portfolio?
Personally, I wouldn't say talents.
I would say
it was
talents.
all very experimental. I didn't know a lot about screenwriting. It seemed like something that I wouldn't generally be interested in, but I started to develop curiosity throughout the 2 years about what would writing a script be like. I honestly feel like for most of the students, I mean, there's only 4 of us. It's not. It's sort of a creative process, but it's more just to be efficient. So I feel like my script, it's about a family argument with kind of a controlling and immature dad. But I feel like it wasn't something that I would have written if it wasn't graded and if I had more time and more freedom to experiment.
Do you think that because you were more restricted during this time period, do you think that added to maybe the creativity of it that maybe you wouldn't have been able to find otherwise?
Yeah, so I knew from the start, even before this quarantine thing, that I probably couldn't film it, or at least film many different shots, and so I knew it had to be in one setting. But also the physical direction had to be simple because it had to be shown through drawings or frozen pictures, and so it was very basic, very stationary. And if it could have been more abstract, obviously, if I wanted to film it.
Mm-hmm. So I wanted to move into the more what if scenarios. So if none of this was going on right now, what would your like ideal weekend be like in the city, maybe in London? Like, what are some things in London that maybe you would have wanted to do that you can't really do now and maybe you regret?
Well, before this happened, my excursions to London were there wasn't a lot of variety. I kind of went to Chinatown every time.
What would you do in
But
Chinatown?
I would just eat a lot of food. I'd go to my favorite spots, or if I do go with friends or family, it would be to a play or musical, and that's also around Chinatown. But now I realize that I should have taken advantage of the museums. Like I've been to the museum several times, but they change almost every few months. I probably would have seen more plays, explored more of London.
Mm-hmm.
But I did go on a ghost tour once with a few friends, like with Olivia and Grace and Emmy.
Yeah. How was that? What was your experience like?
That was very new to do. It was cold and raining.
So, all right. So moving on. So I know now, because we are in this quarantine, something kind of fun that maybe we wouldn't have been able to do happened, where I taught you how to play Fortnite today, actually, just recently. And I was just wondering your review of the game, this cursed or beloved game that you have found a new interest in.
I can see why people would play it multiple, get absorbed in it. There's a lot of aspects of the game that keep it interesting. It's just very stressful. I don't like being pressured by time.
Right. We actually got a victory royale today, which is very cool, I thought. Alex wasn't as excited, but I was ecstatic. So,
I didn't do anything, and I played on my phone, and so it was lagging like every 5 seconds. And then, like the most crucial part of the game,
you got sniped. I had to revive you.
Was canceled. I got shot, but my app just shut down. And I guess Will did better on his own.
No, I needed her. I needed her emotional support so I would win. But yeah, that's basically what we've been doing.
Because how slow I walked.
Oh, well, it's okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. And I hope that you're doing okay. I hope we all are. So thank you very much. And we will
stay safe and God bless.
Yeah, God bless. All right, and we have here JJ, my very good friend from Tassis, alumni now, going to what college, JJ?
University of York. It's in the north of England.
And what are you studying?
Marketing.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Amazing. And I just actually wanted to first start off a question just relating to that topic because for a lot of our listeners, they're going to be seniors. So a question I first had for you is like, what is the difference in transition between high school and college, just for you personally?
Well, I think it depends on what course you're doing. So something I realized was like, for example, kids who are doing math would have a lot of a harder time than kids who are starting out doing business or marketing, just because courses are structured differently. Unlike high school, every single course has it could have its own completely different structure. So that was one thing that was different. And another thing, it was just there was no one really in university. There's no one to tell you, oh, do your assignment, go to class. It's pretty much, do what you want, but you have to be able to prepare yourself for your exams and for your assessments. So there's a lot more control in your end, which is massively different to high school, because high school, I think everything is pretty much structured for you. All you have to do is pretty much show up. But in university, I mean, even down to getting your own groceries, like that stuff, it takes time. It takes time, and you don't really realize it until you're actually doing it. So yeah, that was pretty much the biggest difference for
Okay,
me.
another question I had was about your major, and just in particular, I know a lot of my friends look at majors very broadly. You know, for example, some look at engineering, and then go
Mhm.
down the line of whether you want to be marine or aerospace, and all of these different subcategories. What was your expectation going in to your major? And what was your and were you surprised by the result, or were you what did you feel?
It's actually a funny story. I thought going into marketing, I'd be a bit like Wolf of Wall
Like
Street
Don
esque.
Draper?
Yeah, I thought I would just be like this cool businessman, making lots of money. And essentially, it was not that. I mean, I didn't realize how much like math was involved with with marketing and with business. Like, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, a lot of statistics and stuff. And I just didn't realize how different it was. And it's not a bad thing. That's the thing. It's not a bad thing. Difference is actually good. It keeps you on your toes. But I would go in, like, just a piece of advice for people who are going into university: go in with an open mind. Don't expect anything, because most likely it will not be what you thought it was. And yeah, so yeah, I mean, there's a lot of components to marketing which I expected, like the psychological stuff. But yeah, I was completely thrown off with the amount of statistics and math I
Sure,
needed.
sure.
Yeah.
And so I like to divide, moving on now into more social topics, just in terms of the era we're living in. I like to call it the post Tom Hanks era, because everyone kind of started taking it seriously after Tom Hanks. So now in the post Hanks era, how have you been? Just I'm like like whether on an emotional level or like how have you been just as a person? Like still the same or changed?
um, I'm the same person with different tastes, just to put it simply. I'm still the same JJ that left high school, but I've been able to realize, like, who I am as a person. Just because you're you're able, once you're given that freedom, you're sort of able to experience what you truly like, what you truly dislike. Um, and yeah, I'd say I've just refined my interests more being away, especially being away from home. It gives you time to really focus on yourself and build on yourself.
So in that, have you found any like newfound hobbies or any like fun like schedule based that you like? Maybe you're on like a new regimen now, for example, or have you
Yeah,
just been like taking it like as it comes? Like I'm feeling creative today.
yeah, no, that's yeah. So you get a lot more time in uni, and I found that I'm really into like filming and editing and applying that to marketing. So like I'll go and try and find clients and kind of market their little small businesses for them, and put together some little promotional videos. And I just find that really interesting, and it's something I like to do.
Okay.
So yeah, I'd say that's probably one of the new hobbies I picked up.
Okay. And so would you say you're getting more done or less done? Like so just in terms of like your workload.
I would say academically right now I'm getting less done because I actually have fewer classes. I don't have a 7 hour day. I have probably like 2 hours a day of class, but I'm getting more done um, outside of like the classroom, if that makes sense. So, um, for example, applying what I'm learning in class to doing my own thing as well. So yeah, academically not so much. I'm not getting as much done as I was because I did the IB and it was
Sure,
pretty
sure.
intense.
I'm sure, yeah.
But
I did
but
the
and
IB.
AP as well.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I did the IB film course. I actually just completed it yesterday, so I'm done with
oh, well done.
IB officially. Yeah. Speaking of film, are there any like shows or movies or books that you've picked up that you would want to recommend to our friends listening?
Yeah, definitely. I'm currently watching this show called Community.
Okay.
Um, it's a very funny kind of it's about these group of students that meet in community college, and they're all age groups, and you get to see how an older person in college would think versus an 18-year-old girl just come out of like high school, and it's a really funny show. I'd recommend it. It's worth your time.
Yeah, I saw it on Netflix, so I'll definitely put it on the
Yeah.
list. Yeah. So are there and speaking of looking forward, in terms of like there are things that you probably have wanted to do on the bucket list that you just can't do anymore. So like was there anything you were planning to do pre Tom Hanks that now you can't do anymore that you were looking forward to maybe?
You know what? That's a difficult one because obviously like you have wins when you're in high school, and you have things that like plans you make with your friends. Um, but if I'm giving you the honest answer, not really. I'm pretty happy where I am right now. Like I'm getting stuff that I never thought I would get done. Um, and also keep in mind, you make plans in high school with your friends, but then when you graduate, everyone kind of disperses.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a bit hard to continue those plans. But I'd say use the period between graduation and starting class to your advantage. Do everything you can, like with the people you've made plans with, and then when you go your separate ways, then go in with an open mind and just be prepared to make new plans with new friends and a new environment. So, but no, to give you the honest answer, no, I haven't really I haven't really thought that far ahead.
No, of course, yeah. But it's interesting to ask each person because some people are like have a list of things they were going to do, and some people just don't know. So it is interesting. Yeah, absolutely. Anything that you want to like what to tell people like what gets you through each day. So like what is like one piece of advice or like something that you tell yourself that like helps you through post Hanks?
Yeah, it's going to be quite cheesy. It was actually mentioned in Frozen 2.
Oh wow, okay.
But it's a very good mentality to have through your day, and that's just to do the next right thing. So like instead of planning ahead and thinking of all the outcomes, as long as you do the next right thing for you in your current situation, eventually you'll be where you have to be, and there'll be some like kind of tough times in uni. It's a new experience, you know. There'll be an adaptation time period. But as long as you keep doing the next right thing for you at that time, you'll be fine. And that's sort of it's a calming mentality to have when things especially get a bit rocky. But
Sure.
yeah, it's a great time. University is a fun time.
I'm
it's
sure.
a good time to experience new things. So.
Ohio has a lot of frozen custard, which I'm looking forward to immensely. So we'll see what happens then. But
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, and I really appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a good interview. Thank you.
And we are live with Holly Priest, a great friend from Tassus, who I've known for a very long time. I think it's been almost six years now, actually, coming up. So it's been a trip. So how have you been, Holly?
I've been good. You know, the last month or so has been crazy, but I think adjusting to it, everyone's been kind of doing it together, and that's been really nice to have that connection with everyone. And it's kind of I think that's the positive side of the craziness in the world right now, that it's really bringing people together. So yeah, I've been good.
Yeah, I like to consider this time the post Tom Hanks era, when people started caring, and we go from pre Hanks to post Tom Hanks, and so yeah. So post Hanks, has there been any changes in your schedule? Like, have you found yourself more busy than usual, or like starting a schedule?
Not.
No.
Not more busy. I found the transition to online learning to be difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to stay motivated with that sort of thing, but you got to remember that you're still in school, and it kind of helped instigate senioritis even more than it was already
Absolutely.
happening.
I'm
But
feeling the same way.
besides from, I've been trying not to sleep in too late. Waking up before noon is an accomplishment at this point. I've been taking the time to learn new things and try to like stay motivated. So I started practicing guitar, and I've already improved a lot. I didn't play that much before. My excuse was always that I didn't have enough time, but now I have all the time in the world. So I've been working on that and find things to do.
That's awesome. So I guess moving on to like things that you've been doing around your house. Are there any like good TV shows or like movies that you've watched that you would probably recommend to our audience?
I'm sure you've heard of it because I know you're a very big pop culture guy.
Sure.
But I've been rewatching my favorite TV show, Community.
Oh yes.
Yeah, because they just put it on Netflix, and I was really excited about that. So I've been rewatching that a lot, reminiscing because my brother showed that to me, and my brothers are here, so um,
Living with your family, like I'm sure you have like a very like very big family. So is it been harder or have you been getting along?
well, I got two older brothers, and we've been getting along very well, which is kind of surprising. They've both been in college, so they both came back from the U.S. Um, and this is the first time in, geez, almost 5 years that all of us have been like consistently living together. Um, First week they drank all the chocolate milk in the fridge, so I was a little upset about that. But they're learning. They're learning to ration
They're
more.
learning not to mess with you and your chocolate milk.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's I'm very happy with having them here because I would have been so bored on my own. And they're always up to hang out. My brothers are really good people, and they're just really fun to hang out with. And it's nice to it's comforting to have your family in times like this. And I just feel lucky that I get along pretty well with my family. Um, and yeah, it's just been great to have them around and be able to spend time with them and not be too bored.
Mm-hmm.
They're
That's
fun.
well, that's really great actually, because I know family is very important to stick together, especially during this time. Another question I had for you is now I'm sure people obviously had a lot of plans pre Tom Hanks about what we were gonna do, and is there anything that you were looking forward to doing that now you can't do, or any like maybe like a trip into the city or something fun that you wanted to cross off the bucket list before you leave London?
Well, actually, fun fact. So right now is spring break. I was supposed to be in northern Italy, but I was really excited about becoming a second semester senior, and this thing that everyone talks about and everyone says, oh, was their favorite part of high school was being a senior. So um, it's a little disappointing to feel like you're missing out on that. And again, what I think is the positive side of this is that the whole class of 2020, like not just at TASIS, but all over the world, we're all going through the same thing and we all feel the same way. And I think it's bringing us together a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
So it would have been, amazing to be able to have that opportunity, a lot of that celebration. However, from a more like general perspective, um, I think that I think that quarantine is a good thing because we're keeping people safe, we're keeping our relatives safe, um, but also it's giving people a lot more of an appreciation for a lot of things, appreciation of like friends and having each other, um, and also like CO2 emission levels are down a lot.
Oh yeah,
It's just
absolutely. I know the Venice rivers are running clear almost, so that's
yeah.
definitely a sign.
So
Uh,
hopefully people, learn from that. I really hope that people like take the lesson from that and like, less unnecessary air or
I'm
road.
also a very clean person too, so to see everyone washing their hands just brings me a certain sense of closure. Like,
Yeah,
Oh, thank you. So,
Especially my brother. He's kind of a pig.
yeah. So I guess one question I just had to wrap up on that I've been asking everyone is there any advice or motivation that helps like get you out of bed in the morning that you just tell yourself, maybe for yourself or other people?
You know, I myself had a hard time figuring that out. But I started really getting back into, working out, like running, um, and being sure that I'm taking the time to go outside and get fresh air, even if it's just like in your backyard. It's really worth it. And though you may get trapped in this mindset where you just want to like stay in your room and not do anything and like sleep all day, just being sure that you're really focused on keeping contact with people, because that's what everyone needs is human contact. And though like Skype calls or just like texting isn't the same, it's really important to keep that connection upheld, because once all this is over and once everything passes, I think that everything is just going to be like a huge celebration. Everyone's going to be super celebratory, and so just having that appreciation for each other is really important, I think.
Yeah, that's a big part of why I'm actually doing this, especially because I was bouncing the idea off of people 2 months ago, but now I'm like really wanting to get this done, so I'm really happy and thank you for your time.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
think I think we're the same in the sense that we're introverted.
Yes.
You know, I thought that I could, be by myself for long amounts of time. I wasn't too concerned about lockdown, because I thought like, oh, just like more time I get to spend with myself. But you do miss that connection with other people, and I'm glad that you're doing this. This is really cool that you're like keeping all of us connected, and thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, thank you. No, thank you, Holly, and I appreciate it. And we are on with the great Olivia Hunt, one of my few Naval Academy friends, of which there's only one, her. Olivia, how are you? How have you been?
I've been doing good, Will. I'm in California right now, and that's really interesting and fun. So, chugging along, waiting for the day I can maybe come back to Tassus.
Yeah, hopefully. I know you left the school on bad terms, but I know that the school is probably willing to redeem themselves for you, the student council president, whatnot. But
Will, I'm the secretary treasurer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And you should know that.
At the Times. So we'll consider that still a win. But anyway, moving on. One of the things that everyone's been doing is giving recommendations for movies or TV shows or books that they've read that maybe they would like to recommend to anyone, our audience. So, Olivia, is there anything you would like to speak on that?
The single greatest show I've seen in the last maybe 2 years, Twin Peaks.
Crime. Oh, okay.
By the iconic David Lynch.
Yes.
It's fantastic. There's like 30 hours of it, so and it's also based in my what I credit as my home state, Washington.
Yeah, I see myself in the main character because he loves coffee and pie, and he's just very much just a wholesome soul. So,
of course.
I like to live up to his expectations if there were. So on terms of schedule, I know I know at the time that we last saw each other physically, I know that there was a definitely regiment, the schedule. You were a very organized person. Looking at your current situation now, would you say that's changed a bit?
Yeah, I think it would immensely. I like structure a lot. There's a reason I'm going into the military. I guess you could look at as an example, but I like to be busy, a lot, like really busy. Like I like to almost put myself through like immense amounts of anxiety because it's almost comforting. But now I'm sort of like laid back, and I mean like I don't have anything to do, so I wake up at like 8:30 and 9, which is a far cry from what my roommate will tell you at my usual 5:30 a.m. homework kind of binge. So I don't know. I mean, I think we find structure and pattern in little things. Like I wake up, I make my coffee, I work out or something like that. But I do miss the structure of kind of a school schedule, I think.
Yeah, I guess the similarity that we found in each other is that we're both very organized and very regiment people. And I think for myself now, it's been even more elevated to the point where I've been like completely filling my life with just as much as possible so that I don't get bored. That's the worst feeling when you say just the boredness of it. Yeah.
The thing is about me, though, is that, like, I'm very hardworking, but I'm, like, kind of lazy. You know what I'm talking about? Like,
Sure.
if you give me something, I'll do it. But if I don't have anything, I'm very good at, like, getting out of it. Because I think in high school, I committed to a lot of stuff, so I kind of got this mindset that if I can push something off, I should for my own well-being. And now that I have nothing to do, I'm sort of just, like, creating all this free time that I think is damaging to my psyche. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll make sure that I send a care package by drone because I know that's popular in California.
Oh my god. Yes.
So I like to split up two eras in which we were living in, the pre-Tom Hanks era and the post-Tom Hanks era, you know, when people started taking it seriously. Are there any things in the pre-Tom Hanks era that you were looking forward to that you just can't do anymore?
Oh, okay, so it's like pre-Tom Hanks getting corona.
Yeah.
Okay, because I was like,
that's the
I
joke.
feel like Tom Hanks has been an important voice in my life since the beginning. So I was like, I feel like there's no.
I don't know the
pre-Tom
man
Hanks
personally, if that's what you're asking.
But I think like before corona, I was really excited to like go into London as an 18-year-old and like do some crazy stuff.
Yeah,
okay?
you and me both. Probably together.
Yeah.
So
I feel like most of high school I've sort of been like, I'm not going to do that because I am blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm talking about? And
Yeah.
I sort of was like, because I was going to the Naval Academy and I became very aware of the fact that the partying aspect of like a normal high school wasn't an experience I was necessarily going to have, that I wanted to kind of make up for it. And I think as I was just sort of getting that ball rolling, and I was like, I picked out like some weird clubs in London to go to, like that ball club that's just
right,
plastic
yes.
balls.
Yes.
Like I wanted to go there, and now I can't.
Well, that's okay.
So
I'm
that
sure
was,
we'll have a ball museum reunion at some point. Are there any
Oh, yeah.
are there any hobbies that you've like picked up during your time, or just like something like, I don't know, something obscure like coin collecting? I mean, or whatever, just something that you're like, oh, that's kind of fun, that you've just kind of picked up.
Yeah, I don't have that many objects with me, so I came to live at my aunt's house in Napa so that if the US borders closed, I could still go to college and stuff like that. And I was a boarding student, obviously, so I could only take like 2 suitcases of stuff. So I don't really have like, I'm really into crochet, so I don't know like my crochet needles or my crochet hooks or stuff like that. But I did, in a moment of depression and internalized self-hatred, I did download TikTok, and I made a couple of those.
Oh yes.
That was bad. I did pretty good, to be honest.
I know. I was
two
impressed.
TikToks.
You really impressed me with your acting in that. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And each of them got like 1,500 views, and I was like, bruh.
Wow.
But then I put them on private because I got a message from the Naval Academy that said like it's not like, it wasn't for me, but it's like the packet that we get to go to school, and they have social media standards, and I just got like real freaked out.
Sure.
That someone would find my TikToks. And then because apparently the detailers like will go up to you and like mock your social media. So I didn't want a TikTok of me that they could be like, you're a bad boy, huh?
Right. That's interesting that you bring that up, because I was thinking a lot about my own kind of YouTube, because there's so much content I put on there over the years. And so it's kind of like just been me. Sometimes I'm just like scrubbing through it, and I'm just like, okay, clean Christian comedy. Nothing too bad here, and so that's what it's been for a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it's been okay. Would you say that you're coping? You're still mentally the same since? No, you're making a face. She's making a face for those listening.
I would say if you want to say coping, we can say coping. Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
So I guess then, do you have any advice or maybe some motivation for our audience out there to get through each day? Like, what gets Olivia Hunt up every morning?
The promise of Cheez-Its, I think, has become a real important force in my life.
I gotta say, I ordered. This came into the mail today. I ordered a 3-pack of Thousand Island dressing from Amazon, thinking that it wasn't gonna be anything special because I like to make Reuben sandwiches in my free time. It is a very good sandwich. Anyway,
why 3 packages?
Because that's all they had. That's all they had of Hellman's Thousand Island dressing. So I get it in the mail. I open up the package, and it is I'm not. This was out hyperbole. It is as big as my head. Each canister of Thousand Island dressing.
Oh my god!
So now we have literally a lifetime supply. It's gonna last me months, and I have no idea what to do with it. We don't have salad. We only have sauerkraut, and I don't know what I'm gonna do with myself.
Just drink it. That will become your coping mechanism. Taking shots of Thousand Island dressing.
Yeah. They'll be like, Will, and I'll be like, I haven't heard that name in years. Shot of Thousand Island dressing.
Yes, like from like the girl in Indiana Jones when she's like doing all the shots.
Yeah.
And you're just doing Thousand Island dressing.
Oh God.
Tossing it
That's
back.
gonna be my life. That's how I'll get. That's when I'll become a psychiatrist, and to get to know the criminals that I'm going to be interviewing, I'll just make sure that I'd be like, I can get some Thousand Island for you if you need some. And they'll be like,
God.
Well, you can do that.
See, that'll be our high school.
It's not a pack of cigs for you, sir, but it will be something.
Christ. Yeah. Our high school reunion is going to be us having to go pick you up from like a Thousand Island dressing crack house. Okay, that's what.
And I'll be like, "You're blowing my cover." I'll be like, "I've been deep undercover for 3 years."
We'd be like, "Will, you're not undercover, but Thousand Island dressing."
I'm gonna still have my goatee. That's how they're. And then when I take it off, they're like, "Will." Yeah. So. All right, well, I think this interview is definitely the one that has gone off the rails the most, not gonna lie.
As it should be.
But I think I wasn't expecting anything less, so thank you very much for your time, Olivia, and I appreciate it.